Okay, we're good.
All good?
Yeah, we are live.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody, to the second Flow office hours of September. It's really great to have you all here. This is our chance to get together weekly as a Flow community and talk about the state of development on Flow, but more importantly, answer any questions that you might have about building on Flow, and just have a general open discussion about what's new and what's upcoming. We are streaming worldwide today, live on multiple platforms, here on Discord, but we're also streaming to Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube today. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them directly here or put them in the chat on whichever platform you're joining us from today. We got a few things queued up today, but to start, we're going to do a quick round of intros from the Flow core team. So I'm Peter. I'm a software engineer on the Flow Developer Experience team, and I'm joined here today by Kim.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim. I work as a developer advocate for Flow, and yeah, I'm going to pass it on to Ben.
Hi everyone, I'm Technical Content Marketing Manager for Flow. I'm Ben. And yeah, great to have you all here. And I pass it on to Albert.
Hello everyone, I'm Albert, a solutions engineer at Flow, helping teams create experiences on our blockchain. And I will pass it to James, the tile below mine.
Hello, I'm James. I am responsible for the JS SDK, FCL, and a lot of wallet integration stuff. I'll be in the SDK and FCL channel during the breakout. Pass to Gregor.
Hi, I'm Gregor, software engineer on developer experience team. I'm mostly working on tooling. I'll be in SDK guidelines channel today and passing on to Josh.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh. I'm a smart contract developer on the Flow team. I'll be in the Cadence channel to answer any Cadence questions. And I'll pass it to Srinjoy.
Hey guys, I'm Srinjoy. I'm a product manager for the developer experience team. I'll also be jumping around channels.
Awesome. So to kick things off, we've got a weekly video recap from Kim.
Cool. Let me get that up and running really quick. I'm going to change it over on to the live stream. Cool.
Sweet. So we realized the past couple of weeks that the live streaming video, if you're on Discord, so if you're here in the Discord room with us, the audio will probably be quite low on your device. It turns out Discord, I think, automatically reduces the stream volume. So if you need to crank up the volume, if you are in the room here and you click on, first click on watch stream on the box in the top left corner. Once the stream is open, if you right click or secondary click, you'll see a stream volume slider. When I opened it the first time, it was down, I think 60 or 70%. If you crank it up to 100 or like 150, the volume should be much, much better. But hopefully if you're on any of the streaming platforms, it's already full volume. But yeah, just a quick tip if you're here on Discord. And let us know if that doesn't work. We're still trying to debug this. But yeah, hopefully it's all good this week.
Hopefully it's all good. And on that, we shall start. Hi there. Welcome back to another TLDR with me. My name is Kim, I work for Flow, and let's dive into this week's topics. The first NFT drop for Xtingles is coming up September 16th at 11 a.m. Eastern. Haven't heard of Xtingles? They're a platform that sells ASMR videos and sounds while collecting royalties on secondary sales. They also have a full marketplace where users can buy, sell, and trade their Xtingles NFT. So go get ready, take a deep breath, relax, and find the ASMR NFT that's right for you. September 16th, 11 a.m. Don't miss out. Speaking of first drops, we wanted to remind everyone that the Chain Monsters Genesis drop is coming up on September 14th. There will be 3 different pricing tiers, giving collectors a variety of options to pick from. So whether you're just curious about how it works, or already all in and ready for the next update from B-Side Games, there's an entry point for you. Plus, Chain Monsters is free to play if you just want to check out what the hype is about. So mark your calendars and get ready for the first NFT drop from Chain Monsters. Did you miss our partner spotlight featuring the great work happening at Gig Labs? Their team has been working hard at bridging the gap between premium brands and compelling user experiences, partnering with intellectual property like Vault by CNN, the Miami Hurricanes, and many more to come. In fact, they just announced their partnership with Motor Speedway to launch Race Day NFT just this week. The new platform, built for race day enthusiasts, will have its first drop on September 13th, dropping commemorative tickets from the upcoming race at Bristol Speedway. You can check that out at racedayNFT.com. Gig Labs' NFT Bridge platform makes it easy for brands to get their foot into the blockchain door, removing the friction from the process of trying to figure out how to get started in the NFT space. Check out our partner spotlight to learn more about Gig Labs. Stay tuned for more launches from their team that's just around the corner. Over on the DevX side, we're getting ready to add the JavaScript testing documentation to our docs site. If you can't wait and you want to dive in, you could check out all the docs in the GitHub repo linked below. And that is all for TLDR this week. My name is Kim. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and I will see you next week. Bye. That thing's so loud.
Sweet. Thank you, Kim. How was the audio for everybody? It was good for me to crank it all the way up.
Exactly. I had to crank it up to 200%.
Yeah, same my side.
Okay, at least you know there's a workaround, but hopefully we can find a way to bypass that.
That was the same for me. I had to crank it up on my phone, so then it was okay.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Sweet. So at this point in the office hours, we typically break out into more focused discussions. So if you're here on Discord, you'll notice that below this room, there are 3 pre-named breakouts: Cadence, SDK Guidelines, SDKs, and FCL. So today, Josh will be hanging out in the Cadence room, answering any questions and leading the discussion there. And then Gregor is going to be hanging out in the SDK Guidelines room. So if you missed it last week, we published, put up a new repository with general guidelines and tips and just resources to help anybody who's implementing an SDK for Flow in any language. Gregor is the author of that, and he's around to just give an overview of it, but also answer any questions you might have. And then we also have a combined SDKs and FCL breakout room. So if you're using any of the SDKs that are already out there, or if you're using FCL, James will be in that room to answer any questions you might have about that. So we'll just give everybody a chance to shuffle around if you want to. But the rest of us will be staying in the main room here, and this is where we talk about just the general process of building on Flow. So if you have any questions that don't fit into one of those 3 categories, stick around, we can talk about it. typically the discussion here touches on a few different topics. So if you're just hanging out and you want to listen in, this is the place to be. Cool. So with that said, we don't have anything else on our prepared schedule today, which means we can turn it over to everybody here just to kind of open up the discussion. So to start, we usually like to ask just kind of what everyone's building, where you're at, and if you've run into any blockers or if you have any questions about just the general process of building on Flow. Happy to hear it here. Anything is fair game. It can be a simple question about one of the tools or a broader question about kind of technical strategy or product strategy. Totally down to talk about anything. So is there anything that's on anybody's mind?
I mean, hey guys, I've got like a really OT question, and I just want to know: is it a requirement to have a guitar in the background of your video? Because I see like everyone has it. I'm just wondering how this will affect my product capability when it comes to building on Flow.
You
Yeah,
don't have to have a guitar, but you have to be able to play one.
Shit. Okay, which breakout room should I go to if I can't?
We'll make an exception for you. What's happening? How you doing?
Alright. Cool. I'm good, and you guys, and lady, and other non-specified genders.
So thanks for joining us today. Tell us about what you got going on. How'd you end up here with us?
NBA Top Shot, I guess. It's kind of like a segue for, I'm assuming, a lot of people into consumer NFT space, where it's like not really crazy technical. And so we're building something similar, but we're still negotiating with content rights holders. So right now we've got pack sales and marketplace pretty much up and running. Still waiting on final confirmation on commercials and agreements.
Very exciting. Well, we won't ask you to reveal any details, but tell us this: have you started writing your contracts?
Somewhat. So I've taken the Top Shot contracts as a pretty like easy starting point to do a lot of what we want to do. And as we're building out the product, so for us, I think the product will still heavily depend on what the commercial agreements are with the rights holders and what it is that they envision for their content. At that point, we'll either start writing new or amend the currently existing ones to suit our needs.
So worth mentioning that there are a couple other good reference points for contracts, specifically kitty items is kind of our go-to marketplace contract. We also have the NFT storefront, which many teams are using to create their peer-to-peer marketplaces. Have you seen those by any chance?
Yeah, so we've actually integrated storefront. And so
cool.
we're using that for the marketplace. And I guess I get one question out of that is, which is also something that's been, I guess, repeatedly been discussed in Discord, just about royalties, and how people, how you can have a perpetual royalty if it's not in your specific marketplace, if it's not in NFT store, or storefront, how do you actually protect that royalty going forward? So it would be interesting to hear what's kind of on the cards for that in terms of flow direction.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something we often talk about. Well, first of all, the first step is to kind of have an agreed way for marketplaces to execute the royalty, right? So we're working on that. I think we're closer to having a standard there. In fact, there was somebody that was just in here that's helping out with that. That's a esteemed member of our community. So assuming that there's a standard in place and everyone's adhering to that, the next step is, marketplaces on Flow, by virtue of the fact that they're on Flow, we would assume and empower them to be able to enforce that royalty. But to be frank, it is a matter of goodwill, right? So we as a community, we as a blockchain, at the protocol level, we don't do anything hard and fast that would enforce that royalty. But there is a strong sentiment of good faith, and as every marketplace on Flow would be, very, very strongly encouraged to honor that royalty. With that said, if I own something as a user and I control my wallet, I can in theory, do whatever I want with that and bypass the royalty. But in actuality, most people will only transact their NFTs on trusted, sites, dApps, what have you. And it's pretty rare for someone to just, arbitrarily do something on some random site, random dApp, or on their own. But as far as the mechanics are concerned, it is technically possible to bypass the royalty. Does that answer your question?
It does. Can I throw a spanner in the works? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, if that's the preferred way of doing it, will Top Shot be opening up Top Shot moments at any point to be traded on other marketplaces, trusting the community to enforce the royalties?
Great question, Pete. I see you've unmuted.
Well, that's a good one. Unfortunately, I think you'd have to ask the Top Shot team. I'm not totally sure what their plans are there, but I do know they're interested in opening up Top Shot in general. The question of how are royalties and whatnot enforced? That's a good one. But the way I think about it is that there's always a way to bypass a royalty, even if the mechanism that charges that royalty is more intrinsic to the NFT. You could, because it comes down to the fact that typically a royalty is a percentage of the sale price, right? And I don't know if you've ever purchased a used car, but typically, like here in Canada where I live, when you buy a used car, you go to the insurance company and you tell them how much you paid for that car. And then they might, assess the value of that car or charge taxes based on whatever you declare. But sometimes when a friend sells a car to another friend, they might put that they sold it for $20 or $1, right? When really they paid a bit more. I'm not advocating for any sort of insurance fraud here, but the point is, if you have the ability to gift an NFT, and in that case the sale price is $0, you could always kind of back channel that payment, whether it's through a custom smart contract or just a separate exchange of currency, right? And kind of trick whatever royalty logic is there into thinking that you paid a lot less than you actually did. And that's possible in other platforms too. So kind of like expanding on what Albert said, if we think about resources as being following like what we call the true ownership approach, the fact that if you own an NFT or you own any resource on Flow, it lives in your account, just like how your car sits in your garage, right? The way I think about it, and this is getting a little bit maybe philosophical, is you can treat those digital objects like you would real world objects, right? And typically, if you want to sell something, you would go in real life. You would go to a marketplace where you know you're going to find buyers, right? Maybe that's Craigslist if you're in North America. I know there are other platforms worldwide. Facebook Marketplace, an example, I guess. eBay, right? And what we see in real life is that the majority of market activity for like real world goods happens in well-known marketplaces. There's of course black market activity, sort of like call it like casual deals between friends and acquaintances and that kind of thing, but that's much less common. And I think what we hope is that the marketplaces that provide the best user experience and the best sort of access and volume on Flow will value creators well enough to enforce those royalties, right? And if they don't, then creators would presumably stop going to those marketplaces to sell their NFTs, just because it would be sort of, I guess, not in their best interest. So
but I mean, there is like quite a big second-hand market component to it, right? So if you consider that creators, let's say you mint a series of 1,000 NFTs, well, one NFT with 1,000 editions, right? Past the first 1,000 sales of creator to audience, every other transaction past that is like secondary peer-to-peer, right? And that presumably will generate quite a lot more transaction volume than just the first sale.
You probably hope so, but yes, absolutely, because those can go on, ad infinitum, and the direct sale is just a one-time thing for every NFT. So surely, yeah, that's the case.
Okay, cool. So noted. No immediate royalty specifications landing, right? Or is that imminent?
So I will say that the NFT storefront contract, it has a mechanism to
the pay cut or the sale
pay
cut.
cuts. And I think that right now it's just a matter of connecting that pay cut to the NFT definition. So like ideally, I think that the logical way that most people think about it is the creator will specify their royalty cut upon minting, and it's like a field on the NFT itself, and then any like
Storefront will pick that up from.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, have you been following the NFT metadata GitHub issue?
Yes. There's a lot of stuff happening.
I'll link it here just so everybody has it.
Cool.
But it's looking like we're getting really close to having a standard for metadata that everybody likes. Huge shout out to Biarte and Dennis who are on the call here. But I think that royalties could either be an extension of that, or with the way that they've proposed the standard, it could actually just be one of the views on an NFT. Could be like a royalty view or something like that. I think we're getting closer.
One little tidbit to add about this whole thing, like if you have a brand, or IP holder that, wishes to avoid certain marketplaces, there are other avenues for sort of enforcing that. Like the way if you own an image, you can ask a website to take it down because you own the rights to that image. And that applies here for the metadata for the NFTs. So just wanted to just give you that little tidbit.
Okay. I mean, that sounds quite cumbersome, though.
Well, I mean, as we said, one of the consequences of true ownership, it means that users can do whatever they want. So this is just an additional or some sort of recourse that you would have as the IP holder without, sacrificing true ownership, which is something we hold near and dear when it comes
So
to.
I just want to make one point to that, and it almost feels like there's this tension between what is being envisaged and preached by Flow, and then between what actual brands want to do, aka Top Shot. So every real IP holder wants to control the user experience, doesn't want to show cadence code, wants to easily onboard with fiat and credit card transactions, wants to protect their royalty. So everything that you're now saying is near and dear to the Flow team is like a lot of that is the opposite of real world application, aka Top Shot.
I really appreciate you voicing that, and it's absolutely like spot on, and it's something that's not lost on us. It is true that those things can seem to be at odds, but what's baked into that whole conversation about true ownership and going custodial or non is that it's not just a matter of preference, but there are other implications that need to be considered, specifically when you're custodying funds, for example, right? Though that has implications, right? So it's true, and what I would color what you said is that Top Shot was created, like as the first thing on Flow. If it were built today, it would probably be very different. So it's not lost on us. What we hope to facilitate is a way for people that wish to create their own Top Shot experience, is a way for them to do so without having to go through all of the hurdles that we had to encounter for Top Shot. And there are a great many, right? It's very easy to take things for granted as a user of just visiting Top Shot and saying, oh, I just bought an NFT, I paid with my credit card, I don't have to deal with my wallet. It's just boom, it's done. But in order for that to come to life, so many things had to be addressed that I don't think most people that are endeavoring to build their own have an appreciation for. So we know those things well, and it is our hope again to empower you to create that same experience without the pitfalls, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so like I think that's near to me because I'm doing exactly all those things now, and it is very cumbersome to achieve that. But that is so. I mean, that is what really made NFTs accessible to a lot of people for the first time, right? Is you have a Top Shot experience as to like opposed to an OpenSea experience, which is quite shitty in comparison. And so if you come to Flow, you'd like Top Shot that's your reference, your point of reference. That's where you want to be in terms of your UX, but it's actually quite difficult to get there.
Right.
If not impossible, if you then follow these mantras of like true ownership and non-custodial wallets and.
Yeah, I think that first of all, I totally agree. He hit the nail on the head. There is a tension, and those of us on the core Flow team were often feeling the strain of that tension because I think like in some cases it feels like a tension between accessibility and decentralization, where if you look at like right now, Ethereum is seeing a huge boom in the NFT market. There's tons of interest, and it's predominantly non-custodial use cases where users are holding their own keys, they're acquiring their own crypto, and that is wonderful. But for the average user, it's high friction, right? It's scary, and then you have Top Shot on the other side, where made it as easy as possible for an NBA fan to own an NFT. And what I think we'll start to see is those worlds colliding in a really healthy way. And that's that's actually a big initiative we have on the Flow team, is to help prove that those don't have to be two separate worlds, where you can have custodial users and non-custodial users operate in the same space. That was one of the key principles of FCL early on, was how can we make it the case that wallets that allowing wallets to kind of bring their own key management structures or user experiences into the same application, so you don't have kind of like segmented portions of the network. And I'm not super in tune with the Top Shot community, but I know that there's been a lot of push from their community to have Top Shot be more open. And I think that like it's getting to the case where people want it. They want to be able to. They want to have the OpenSea experience. That's that style of experience, right? And I think it's a matter of like doing so without sacrificing user experience, and that's where the tension lies. And I think like the question of brands and IP and all that, it's a tough one because blockchain's new, and I think for a lot of those, I haven't been super involved in or really involved in any sort of IP discussions at all, but it for decades that was IP was something you held closely, right? Whether you were regardless of who you were, right? And now it's the idea of like opening it up is scary. And I think in the same light, like organizations around the world, whether they're sports orgs or anyone who are art or anyone who holds IP, I think they're getting more and more comfortable with the idea of people owning digital assets, just in the same way that if I had a poster of LeBron James on my wall, I'm not breaking any laws, right? and then that's just a normal thing. But it's a really interesting topic, and above all, we are.
Appreciate the input, and it's cool. Like, I mean, I really dig what you guys are doing. I would be very interested to see what it looks like when those two worlds start colliding, as you say. I think it could be cool. I mean, just as a closing comment, as someone who runs an organization of like supposedly fairly IT savvy individuals, I mean, our company is mobile dev. See what those people struggle with, to like how many 1Password vaults I have to reset in a week, and etc. etc. To think about the general man on the street having like non-custodial ownership, and it breaks my mind how that would even be possible, but we'll see.
We're happy to talk to you about it more.
Yeah, cool. I'll hand the floor over to someone else. Thanks, guys.
You gotta have
Thank you
faith
so
in your
much.
fellow man, dude. We can handle a little bit of responsibility. We just need to, learn how this stuff works, I think. We'll get there.
We want to make it easier for you to get there, and we don't expect users to become savvy overnight, and it's more of us coming together as a community and figuring out how to bridge that gap. And I think we're well on our way. I mean, the trajectory of the ecosystem is poised to continue to deliver on value for the user experience. And I'm really excited about what's on the horizon for the ecosystem. Does somebody else want to say hi? And we don't have a specific agenda here. You can just no pressure. Unmute. Tell us what's going on with you.
Hey, Andrew
Yes.
dropping in. Thanks for all the good work. I'm really excited for the Flow ecosystem. I gotta say, ever since I joined, I kind of felt this like family feeling. Like everybody's kind of helping one another, and I'm pretty sure if I were to do this on Ethereum, mint NFT on Ethereum, it would never have such an experience. So definitely props to all the team at Flow, Dapper. Thank you for such a great job. It was really a great experience working. Just a little quick update here. So we're Extingos. We're doing the first ever ASMR NFT built on Flow, and we have this vision of creating an ASMR metaverse in which we can connect all the ASMR NFT collectors into, and I feel like being in Flow, it makes quite a lot of sense given the great user experience and low gas fees and the environment here. So I think that was a great choice. And a little announcement I'd like to make, which is we're doing a first ever ASMR NFT drop next week on September 16th. and would love to invite you all to participate. And I think that this time around we'll be asking users to be using FUSD, and I feel like there's a huge potential FUSD on Flow, and that's why I'm pretty excited about it. Rest assured, keep up the great work. Love to be part of. Has been great working with you guys, and looking forward to what's new. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing that, and we're honored to have you and Xtingles on Flow. So keep up the great work that you guys are doing. Would anybody else like to chime in and introduce themselves and say a little bit about what's going on in your world?
Hey guys, it's Gerard here from Flowstarter. We're a team, a digital economy accelerator based out in Vietnam, and we're super bullish on Flow. I just wanted to chime in a comment on the previous conversation about custodial wallets. I think crypto ultimately it's about ownership, and ownership is about empowering the user or the bearer of those assets. Like it's a pretty bearish view on humanity if you say, "Oh, this will never work because we can't entrust people with ownership over their own assets." Right? That's not exactly a bullish outlook. So I'm confident that I can tell for a fact that teams are working tirelessly to ship much improved UIs on the wallet front. And I think that's just our job as an ecosystem and a community and as builders to continually improve the ecosystem so that it does become possible for the mainstream user to still participate in all the benefits of the crypto economy.
Thanks, Gerard. That's well said, and we really appreciate.
Those are some of my personal views.
We appreciate that very much, and yeah, that's our hope.
Oh, I actually see that as our job, and I kind of regret positioning my thoughts as there being like two sides or two ends of the spectrum, because I think like what I believe, I guess my personal opinion, what I believe is that we can show that best in class user experience is still possible in a fully non-custodial environment, and it's just a matter of continuing to build it and put those pieces in place. And there's a lot of small bits along the way, but yeah, like a lot of the work that's happening around FUSD right now is a good example, because it's allowing applications that to build to kind of bridge the gap between a crypto asset like FUSD, but using sort of fiat-friendly or consumer-friendly payment rails, but I think like even that, like if we extrapolate, decades or hundreds of years, eventually that divide just closes more and more, and the idea of like holding a cryptocurrency isn't any more foreign than holding a fiat cash currency or something like that. But yeah, like once again we're making a big push right now on Flow to support non-custodial wallets and support non-custodial marketplaces, and in particular, like having user experience conversations with those teams, so that when they launch, they can launch alongside applications like NBA Top Shot and show that like you don't really need to make concessions when you're in a non-custodial like operating environment, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I guess if anyone's interested in, I don't know if there's anyone on the call who's interested in or knows of teams that would be building non-custodial wallets or non-custodial infrastructure. We're at a point where we're really excited to have those conversations.
My personal opinion, again, is that decentralization is a spectrum, and I think the crypto ecosystem or insiders have the tendency to pursue decentralization as an ultimate goal or end, as if it's like almighty in and of itself. But the truth is, like, I believe that user experience is that almighty end. So decentralization, certain things can and should be decentralized, but certain things don't need to. And specifically those things around the user experience sometimes should be highly centralized. So I do think it is a spectrum, and I think too often people get caught up chasing the dream of decentralization at the cost of, a product that's fun and easy and enjoyable to use.
Well said.
So I mean, yeah, sorry, just around those comments, I think it's not that I'm against these. I love the idea of decentralization. I just don't think we're there yet. So for me, and I mean, I've voiced it a couple of times, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but for me, the fact that we show guidance code to non-custodial users to approve transactions, like, I mean, 3 weeks, I've been in this Discord for a couple of months, and like, I mean, a little tongue in cheek, but I still find it tricky to read guidance code in a little tiny window on my mobile phone and understand what's going on, right? So I think until we get to a point where that UX is actually on par and it's really clear, and we have like there's a crystal clear description to the user of what's going to happen, non-custodial for me personally is still reserved for the crypto enthusiasts, whereas for the average person on the street, not so much.
That sentiment is very much, my own as well, and that is not lost on us. We will get there. We will have an experience where you don't have to be a Cadence developer to know what's happening in the context of a transaction. We've talked about it at length, and we care very much to address that. And any other part of the UX that requires any amount of savviness on the user, we wish for those to be meaningfully addressed, especially that one. So there are many people in the community and at Flow itself that have thought about how to solve that problem, and I'm confident that we will be delivering on a solution there. So that is not lost on us, and I appreciate you calling us out on that. I mean, it is what it is at this moment, but just know that we care very deeply about addressing that, and we're never going to rest and say, oh, that's as good as it's going to get. No, absolutely not. We will be making that experience for any wallet, Blockdo or whatever. We want to create the tools and give any wallet the ability to have the user be able to trust what's happening, know what's happening, and empower that user to act on their own behalf. We'll get there.
Yeah, it's true.
Cool, man.
It is kind of funny that if you know what's going on and you know you're interacting with a non-custodial wallet, and then we're showing you Cadence code, it's kind of like, well, this is not useful. You could totally be fudging it. I think the reason why that Cadence code window is there in the first place is just because it was an aspirational thing. It was a decision that was made like in the early stages. It's like, okay, when we were shooting for non-custodial first, and then it just remains there, and Blockdo adopted it, and our dev wallet demo like has it as well too. But it definitely, it's not a security guarantee in any way because it's coming from the wallet itself, right? That code isn't. It's not like. So yeah, it is funny in a tongue-in-cheek way. Yeah.
So just to tag on, there is a dApp out there that has addressed that, where the wallet recognizes a given transaction and is able to display plain and simple English or I don't know if it's localized yet, so that the user knows what's happening in a given bit of cadence.
Oh, nice.
Right. So when you say dApp, do you mean a dApp, or are you talking about Blockdo as the wallet?
Both. So yeah,
Okay.
Blocto's wallet. They have already taken steps to do that. They just haven't fully opened it up to everybody. But
I mean, you have to then submit your transaction or whatever to their GitHub, and they'll merge it and recognize it, right? Yeah.
boom, that's exactly right. Yes.
Again, that's great. And just to take one step back, like I fully understand the decision. Like I'm not saying, like I'm not pointing fingers at you and saying you are screwed up. Like I understand 1,000,000% why things work the way they do and the product priorities and decisions, etc., etc. I'm just saying that conversation between decentralized and mass user adoption, we're not there yet, and there's a significant technical bridge to build until we get there. And then just on that, so I agree, cool that I now as a responsible person can submit my transaction to them, but that it doesn't, like as a security thing, it doesn't stop someone else from processing like a funky transaction that's not submitted to them, right?
Well, so in fairness, I mean, you don't just submit the transaction, it has to be reviewed, right? And there's a community review that would happen. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, the wallet, I would assume, a nice feature to have would be that, if a transaction comes up that is not recognized, it is flagged as such, and the user should be made aware that they're signing something that the wallet is not cognizant of as far as what the outcome of that transaction would be. So the mechanisms for addressing the pain points that you've highlighted are certainly there. It's just a matter of getting them implemented. So I think we have every opportunity to do that. It's just, again, we got to do the work and facilitate us taking those things into account and helping the user along their journey.
Cool. It's good to know.
I don't think the responsibility falls entirely on Flow either, right? Like it's like if you consider how your bank works, right? Like, do you have any guarantees that when you submit a transaction through your online banking system, that the code that's actually processing the transaction, you have no idea what that is, right? So, but the reason why banks don't mess with you is because there's a legal framework around it, right? So there are consequences for banks if they do decide to mess with you, right? So um, we're still in the early stages, and it sounds like in this conversation, it's like the blockchain platforms must lead the way towards non-custodial trust networks and decentralization, but it's not the case. There's lots of work being done in cryptography. There's lots of work being done in platform like hardware standards. There's lots of work being done around web standards and browsers and in all different places. And all of that work together is going to pull like us forward towards it. Perhaps one day where we do achieve like decentralization in a way where you can also have some strong guarantees that like that the folks that you're interacting with that you can trust them to a certain extent. So I think that's important to think about too. It's like the blockchain platforms are bringing like a bunch of advances pulling together into a single like into this weird platform and then putting those things forward. But I would hesitate to say that it's up to us to like really define what it means to have like a trustworthy decentralized network. We're gonna have to like definitely participate in that conversation, but it's the devices we're using, it's the network protocols, it's like it's standards bodies, it's like legal frameworks, things like that have to evolve alongside it as well too, I think.
Well said. It's a community endeavor, right? We all have to do it together, and I like to think that we mindfully, operate with, alongside our community, and help, create that tide that lifts all ships.
I want to add few comments about like custodial versus non-custodial. I think it is like in a situation now that like if you are like bigger than some size with your IP or like with your user acquisition strategy or like maybe you have some budget, the smart way is to go custodial. But if you are like small or like I don't know, like if you don't have like some budget for marketing and stuff, then it is better for you to go non-custodial. Like it's like it will never change because like now NBA Top Shop is like acquiring customers and there's no benefit for them to be non-custodial. Maybe from the Top Shop users, maybe 1% is interested now in like non-custodial solutions or like benefits or they want to sell their NFT in some other place. But 99% is currently maybe not even aware of this. There's a possibility of this. So it is like it will take some time for this balance to change. But as more NFTs or more projects coming to Flow, this non-custodial user base will start to grow. Then maybe it will be beneficial to some IPs or like some companies to go non-custodial. But at the current stage, I don't see any benefit for any IP to go non-custodial, to be honest.
Well, the thing to add there is, and we are not a legal, advisory panel here whatsoever, but there are other things that you want to take into consideration when you're going with the custodial approach that have nothing to do with user experience, but rather on regulatory / compliance side of things. So it's not a decision you can just make in a vacuum. You have to understand all of the implications that are at play. But I mean, your point is well taken. I think you're right on point. Is there anyone?
Custodial,
Yeah.
not custodial. Yeah, it's not black and white either. It's like I forget who mentioned it, maybe Gerard earlier. It's like decentralization. It's a spectrum. There are ways to do like semi custodial stuff, or like have a part of your account you control it, or being able to delegate custody. These kinds of like different setups that.
Yeah, I do agree with your second point, Dennis, that I think it is in many ways a matter of time, and as the non-custodial ecosystem grows across chains. Like I'm not just talking about Flow, but what's happening on Ethereum right now, I think, is kind of unprecedented, and I think like the world will start to get more and more comfortable with the idea of holding their own digital assets and taking real ownership. But I think it's I think it's a matter of time. Sorry, Gerard.
Yeah, no worries. I would add that I think a third important component that should be mentioned alongside the custodial, non-custodial solutions is insurance. And I think once we start having basic insurance, on-chain insurance coverage, against downside risk, stuff like that, I think that's going to be huge. And that currently doesn't exist. So you're right. At the end of the day, it is a lot of risk on new users. And to date, a lot of the products that have went to market have not exactly made that a very welcoming onboarding experience. Again, with limited exceptions. So I think as an industry, like those are some of the areas that we have to focus on. If our focus is to bring the next billion people to the blockchain, or the next million, or whatever it might be. So if anybody's building insurance protocols on Flow, you reach out. I'd love to train.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Insurance. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Awesome. Well, I love the spirited chat we've had so far. We just got a few minutes left. Are there any burning questions that we want to address before we adjourn for the week?
I just want to address one from the chat really quickly. Tainted Sins asked if the Flow team is also developing their own non-custodial wallet. No, we are not developing a non-custodial wallet as the Flow team, but we are offering support to teams, independent teams that are building non-custodial wallets. That being said, the Ledger, so the hardware wallet, Ledger hardware wallet software, that application is maintained by our team. So that's a bit of an exception there. But when it comes to new ones, yeah, I guess to wrap up, I'll give a call out if you're interested in building non-custodial wallet solutions or you know anybody who is, send them our way. We'd love to talk and love to help them integrate with Flow. Cool. I think we're at the top of the hour here. Thanks again, everybody, for joining. We got some announcements coming next week, so stay tuned. If we don't see you before then, see you next Friday.
Have a great week,
Thanks.
everybody.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Ciao.